You're listening to Disrobing the Mosh Pit, a dissection of music and popular culture, with your hosts, Pete and Tom. Well, hello everyone. Welcome along to Disrobing the Mosh Pit, the dissection of music and popular culture.
Welcome.
Yeah, and with your host, Pete and Tom. So, g'day there, Tom. How you going?
Hey, good man. How you doing, Pete? All right? Good week?
Good. Yeah, good, thanks. How's your week been?
It's been a good one. It's been locked down again here, but I think we've been taking advantage of it. We've been getting out, but doing quite a bit of exercise, a bit of walking the dog, bit of biking. It's the usual sort of stuff, eh? Everyone's got that going on at this point in time. So trying to make the most of a kind of shitty situation, I think. You guys doing the same?
Sorry?
Are you guys doing the same?
Yeah. It's just hanging out with the family, trying to do the home fitness workouts on the deck. Actually, I wonder what my the Sparta training.
Yeah, tell me about it, man. What's involved?
Well, there's nothing to really tell. It's probably just more. I get slightly self-conscious because our house has got a bit of a deck on it, and then it's on the other side of a valley, and I kind of feel that people can definitely see me on the deck doing it.
Oh, it's
doing my thing.
You got to embrace that.
Well, yeah, at least I have a shirt on. Yeah, I'd never go topless on that. But no, we've been pretty busy. Like just going to do a few things. We went out for a little bit of a walk around the estuary today, and I've been making gummy bears, as I was alluding to. Well, as I was covering with you earlier on. Yeah.
They sound amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think they're ever going to be as good as what you buy in the store. But, to fill in a bit of time, I think it's not a bad little hobby to have.
I think everyone's kind of got a few, dug into a few of their older hobbies, or maybe something they've always wanted to do in this lockdown, haven't they?
What have you been dabbling in that's maybe slightly new, or a bit of a rehash on something that you used to do?
I've kind of been working through, but I have been devoting quite a bit of attention to parts of the garden that needed it, pretty big time, including taking out a tree stump that was just sitting there waiting. Yeah. A lot of grunting, a lot of swearing and sweating, that kind of stuff.
What did you use?
I used a splitter, but actually today I sharpened all my knives because I got a set of whetstones, and that was a really good thing to do.
You sound like a psychopath.
I only do it when there's someone there that I can stare in the eyes while I'm doing it. I put on my Karate Kid headdress and then sharpen the knives real slowly, always maintaining eye contact.
Kids come around. You've got to learn these skills.
Yeah, it's an important element. So what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I think it's probably best that you describe what we are talking about today, Tom, because I don't know if I could probably describe it as eloquently as you can.
Well, we were sort of tossing up between a few things, but I think what we were kind of settling on was the wonderful world of bass, the phenomenon that is bass in music. Why people like it. There's a whole genre devoted to it, bass music they call it. It's the low frequencies from 20 all the way up to, I guess, the high sort of bass of the 200 hertz. What is it that makes it, excuse the pun, resonate with people so much? And
musical puns, love it.
How long have we been liking it? Why do we like it? And what do we like about bass? So,
That's a jolly good question, man. Why do people like it? Is it a primal thing, do you think, or is it just a way that people can dance to music, or because it seems to be sort of, along with drums, quite an underpinning element of music,
kind of primal,
and yeah, totally like a primal kind of thing. Do you think that's why people love it so much?
Well, firstly, I think that it has not really been that, with modern amplification and stuff, now we can have big sub-frequencies and that kind of stuff. Really, that they're amplified. So back in the day when everything was acoustic, I don't know if it had quite the same effect. So I guess in the last sort of 40, 50 years, or maybe a little bit longer, people are experiencing this shift where bass is a lot more common and prevalent in live performance and in mixes as well. But going back to what you're saying about why we like it, I was doing a little bit of reading.
Nice.
A tiny bit, and it's not very common for me to do that in preparation, but I was like, okay, well, this is interesting, and there are a few theories out there. and one of them is that we hear certain frequencies, with our ears, but bass frequencies, because of the way the wave moves, we actually feel it more with we feel it as well with our bodies and in our bones. And so, I mean, of course, anyone would tell you that normally when they're at a live gig and they're like, oh man, you can feel that sub just going boof, boof through me. But I think perhaps that is a big appeal for people because you actually feel the sound rather than hearing it. Do you reckon?
Yeah, totally. Is a bass wave larger in amplitude, or is it?
I always get mixed up, but I
larger?
know that there's more space between each wave, so
So
they're much slower.
So it's a longer wavelength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
Okay.
that's the way that they kind of move. But certainly you can feel it in your bones. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Have you ever got to a concert, or if you're standing outside of a concert waiting to go in, and it might be the opening act, or you've turned up slightly late, and the opening act's on, and you can hear it like pumping. I mean, you can never hear the highs. You can always hear the lows, just pumping. It gets you so fired up.
Yeah,
Gets
and
me
it's the
all fired up.
Totally, and it's just the hardest thing to tame as well. In a studio or in a treated room, the bass is always the thing that just gets right through the walls. It gets through, and it's always the first thing that neighbours are kind of calling about.
True, true.
So it's just
Do you reckon that's
difficult.
why boy racers use it as a sort of a tool to drive through town and all their
Well,
bodywork's rattling?
I kind of have got another theory about that even, where it's kind of the bass frequencies, it's kind of like you feel it like you do with like a motor in a way. So, I mean, well, yeah, totally, you're right, because it's the loudest thing. That'd be why boy racers would use it, I'd say.
And because you say it penetrates, eh?
Yeah,
Unlike
that's a
like
good-
high
that's a
frequencies
good
sort of like
word.
get sort of stopped. No one's like getting ear split by like super high treble.
It's all the boom, boom, boom. With those, surely it's just a presence and volume thing with those people that have have these giant subs in their cars, because that's a big thing still, right?
Yeah, well, I think so. I mean, I don't. I mean, it was big at school, I know, and
Yeah.
but maybe I don't really notice it so much now. Maybe I don't know.
I think they've all moved to Palmerston North, Pete. That's
Yeah,
where-
everyone moves to Palmerston North, man.
especially boy racers. It's because
yeah.
they've got a Wendy's there.
Yeah.
I noticed that in Palmerston North, a lot of boy racers, and you hear them miles away. I don't know when that sort of thing started happening with the subwoofers in the cars, but it's a big thing.
Well,
Bass
probably
is
happened with the the prevalence of better stereos in cars. I remember getting a stereo for my car. It was a Toyota Starlet, and
Nice.
like the only thing I could afford was a warehouse car stereo, and my God, that was tinny. It was ear-splittingly tinny.
People spend a lot of money on car stereos, excuse me, and subsystems these days in their
Yeah,
cars.
man.
Eh?
Didn't like Jonah Lomu like popularize the sort of real like pimp my ride sort of type arrangement?
Yeah, and I think it got auctioned off, right?
Yeah,
Not long after
like
he
fusion
passed, it got
stereos or something, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Fusion subs, and it was like full on, like bright green.
endorsed by it. Do you remember when he put out that album called Music That Moves the Man?
Did he put out an album called Music Moves
It was
the
like a
Man?
compilation of stuff that he compilation of music that he liked. That he I don't know how they swung it, because I guess there'd be you'd have to get licensing from the appropriate people, but it was a compilation like back in the day, The Trip,
Yeah.
you know. But it was called Music That Moves the Man. So I guess they really marketed the hell out of that guy. Eh?
Oh yeah.
General
Although,
Rugby, legendary.
did you ever get into the burger that he endorsed at McDonald's, which was
No, what was that?
the Mega Feast?
Oh,
Was it the Mega Feast?
I don't know. Was Mega Feast around beforehand? I love the Mega Feast.
No, man. I'm pretty sure it was just when he came about, he endorsed Mega Feast. I loved Mega Feast. Absolutely
Awesome.
loved it. Was it something about the mayo and the tomato or something?
I don't
know. God, it was
Yeah.
good.
Oh, yes. Now I know. Yeah, Mega Feast. They were amazing. Apparently now, hot tip: if you want to get a Mega Feast, and obviously they're not on the menu anymore, ask for a quarter pounder with cheese and add lettuce, mayo, and tomato.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm doing that
that's what
tomorrow.
that's what an insider gave me the lowdown, and I did it,
Oh,
and
man.
that's straight
I
up what
love
it
a
is.
mega feast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So, what do you think bass does for the music? Can you explain that? I reckon in terms that your average non musician but music lover would understand. What does it do? Why is it there? Why is it important?
Well, I think bass is always considered part of the rhythm section. So, along with drums, bass has to tie in with the drums and usually very tightly. And it carries carries any song so much. You can pretty much fiddle around with any guitar you like. You can pretty much fiddle around with any instrumentation over top of a bass and drum combination. But really it is the bass and the drums. And certainly with the bass, because it sort of straddles that sort of realm between both rhythm and melody, which I think is incredibly important. And it sort of carries a song immensely. Yeah, that's how I feel anyway, with how bass is sort of portrayed in music.
They've got a bit of a special relationship, the drummers and the bass players, don't they? They've got a bit of a like a love hate relationship, but often they got to be like real tight. Got to get those ingredients right, eh? Like
Totally.
your Flea and your Chad Smith, your Bonzo and John Paul Jones. Those guys from the Living End that you brought up the other week, hey, those guys
I
crushed it.
can't even remember who the actual bass player is, although I did tell you about he did play it's an upright double bass and he plays
Yeah.
it standing on the double bass.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, which I think is incredible.
courageous. Yeah,
Courageous indeed.
that's really good. Well, who are some of your favorite bass players and why?
Who are some of my favourite bass players? Who? Oh man, his name escapes me. But the bass player from Tool,
Justin Chancellor. I think
Justin
it is.
Chancellor, that's him. Yeah, actually, he's an amazing bass player. But have you ever seen him play the bass?
I've seen them live a couple of times. Yeah.
I've watched a couple of YouTube videos of him actually playing the bass, and his bass playing is really good. But he looks so cack-handed doing it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. You should
pretty
honestly YouTube it. He kind of looks like by right shouldn't be able to play the bass, but he's really, really good at it.
He's got some sort of crazy setup, eh? Like a good friend of mine did a tour with Tool, his band did, and he played on Justin's setup during a sound check. And the live setup, I mean, playing live bass is an interesting one because often when people are for those who don't know, often when you're playing live, you normally would have in-ear monitors, so you get your own mix of what's kind of going on, and there's a monitor engineer side of stage that can feed different levels. So if I'm a singer, I might go, yeah, I want the drums at kind of this level, I want the bass and blah, blah, blah at this level, and I want to hear myself like really well. And they put all that into your own feed, into your in-ear monitors. But bass is a little bit different because often bass players want to feel what they're playing, which means having loud amplification on stage. Often they do. So Justin Chancellor's got some sort of crazy setup where basically you're going to be playing and you're just going to shit yourself as soon as you hit the first note because it's just like this gigantic wall of sound. And this friend of mine was explaining during a sound check, getting up there and having a bit of a jam on his bass and just going, oh my God, like his hair was like blowing all over the place and just pretty much, it's just like this insane amount of air being moved by the crazy bass frequencies.
That's something about bass. You feel the ear moving when you hear some like hefty bass if you're standing quite close to a sub, or been to a concert and you're right next to the speaker stack or the sub part of the speaker stack. Man, it fully, you can feel the ear moving past you, eh? Like it moves all your clothes and your hair and things.
Hey, it's exciting.
Very exciting. I love it.
Have you ever like held a baby and just like blown air into their face?
Yeah.
And you know how they're like, oh, they're like, it's like they've never experienced that before, and they get like excitable. I think it's that, or like if you blow air into a dog's face or something like that, just like, just sort of, and they sort of get all crazy and all jump up and do all kinds of stuff. I think it's that kind of same sort of excitement that you kind of get, like you're just sort of getting moved around and it's a little bit out of your control and it's like a physical force. Something exciting about feeling that element of the music, I think,
It's
which is
real
pretty
elemental, eh? It's so elemental. And you sort of get the same experience if you've ever, like, I don't know, I've seen a space rocket launch, for example, and the rumble is so low and you just feel it through your entire body and it's exhilarating in very much the same way as bass would be exhilarating.
cool.
Yeah.
Where did you see that, Pete?
I was a kid, man. We were like in Florida in 1990. And
nice.
we happened to be there at the same time as they were launching the space shuttle Atlantis into space.
Whoa.
Some sort of satellite-y thing. Anyway, we went to go and watch it on Cocoa Beach down there. That thing's amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, it lights up the sky because it's a nighttime launch as well.
Yeah.
And you can hear it like rumbles through you. And it's like some ridiculous distance away. Like you're probably like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, 9 miles away. Like you're quite far away. But it's, man, you wouldn't want to be any closer, I reckon.
It's so rare. It's so rarely occurring normally as well. That kind of frequency. Every day we hear this mid and high and low mid frequencies of just voices and cars and that kind of stuff. And then when a car drives past, you get this. Sorry, when a truck drives past and it rattles your windows of your house a little bit, you're like, whoa. So every time it happens, we kind of take notice. It's that much more punchy when we do experience something like, I guess, like a rocket launch. It's just exciting.
Yeah. Well, and the sea after a storm, it's like real low and grumbly, like when waves and things are coming in.
It's almost like dangerous, eh?
Yeah. There's that sort of that dangerous excitement level that comes along with it, eh?
Well, they say that about earthquakes, eh? There's this subharmonic frequency that they give off that's what freaks out animals. So maybe we kind of associate low frequencies with the fight or flight reflex.
Yeah. And then because of that sort of danger element, it becomes exciting. Therefore, the music is exciting.
Yeah, it's good to take advantage of those things, eh?
Oh, yeah, you got to take
put
advantage.
sirens and stuff in your music. And Have you heard of the brown note before?
No.
It's I guess it's a bit of a theory that there is, and this is taking a bit of a maybe we shouldn't dwell too long on it, but it's the theory that there's a note that's so low that when you hear it, it makes you shit yourself.
I was like expecting a real technical explanation. It's like this where the treble, the middle, and the bass meet. I was not expecting that. The bass like rumbles your gut so much you shit yourself.
Well, you know how I was talking how the bass frequency, the wavelength is kind of more spread apart. So when a speaker cone vibrates, when you have like a tweeter and it's like vibrates super fast, when it's a real low bass frequency, it comes back and forth real slow. And apparently there's this note that does the same thing to your bowels. And you've got no choice but to let loose. So you just you lose control of your bowels when you hear this. I don't
know if you're trying to like make euphemisms with what you're saying, or analogies with what you're saying, but my God, they're elemental, very elemental.
They reckon on Wikipedia, if you check out the brown note, they say it's between 5 and 9 hertz, which we can't hear. So basically, if you
do like a prank on your friends where
I reckon
you can do that where you put someone's hand in warm water and they piss themselves.
Yeah.
Could you do play this bass frequency at this certain hertz range and hopefully they shit themselves in their sleep? Would that work, do you think?
Well, the first thing I thought of probably would normally have been that, but for some reason the first thing I thought of was that it could be dangerous to be around humpback whales in the water because you don't want to attract sharks by
You're in the
yourself
water,
if
Tom.
they start-
You're in the water. It's all right. You attract sharks?
Yeah, but attracting sharks. Yeah.
I thought they only attracted to blood, not shit.
I don't know, man. I guess it depends on what kind of sharks they are.
Otherwise, you see like sharks hanging out by the effluent pipe that flows out to sea from sewage treatment plant.
I guess that would that would be like the smell of a distressed animal. You know what I mean? We've taken a sinister turn here, folks.
This is it
has to be discussed. There's like a
absolutely.
You can use the bass frequency for evil. I think is kind of what I'm getting at there. And
Goes along with Tom sharpening his knives. He also knows the frequency to make your cheese. He's a psychopath.
I've got very interesting alarm systems at my house.
So tell me, Tom, we talked about stereo, like, we talked about bass and we've talked about boy races and we talked about the elemental nature of it. Did you ever try to drive as much bass as you possibly could at home?
There's always that kind of temptation, isn't there? But I've never blown speakers with bass, but it's, I kind of know quite a few people that have. And you were mentioning before, when there was a whole period there where there were people who were manufacturing mini systems and that kind of stuff and slapping this like mega ultra bass stickers on the speakers when they're being sold, or like a bass boost button on like a little ghetto blaster.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely I would have tried to turn it up as much as I could. Like I love bass frequencies as much as the next person. And I think when I was a teenager, and as we talked about before, drumming a lot and double, the kick drum is the bass element of the of the drum set. 2 kick drums or a double pedal on the kick drum means you get twice the speed, and that was immediately appealing to me. I guess me being into bass manifested in that way. I was just like, oh damn, what's that sound? I think it was like maybe Fear Factory, Sepultura, early examples of those bands is when I heard a kick drum being played fast with 2 pedals. And man, I was just like spellbound. From then on, I wanted to get good at it. Me and a good mate of mine, we were just obsessed with double kick, just trying to play as fast as we could on the kick drums there. That's pretty much where my love affair for bass started. It's maybe a little bit more refined these days, but still, as we've discussed before, I'm a bogan at heart, and I love double kick. So,
do you own an Iron Cobra?
Yeah, I do. I've got a few Iron Cobra pedals. Yeah, yeah, and other hardware. Yeah, the Iron Cobra hardware. That's a drum brand for anyone who's wondering. A particularly bogan name.
Just musing to myself when you're talking about the Iron Cobra, about testing out stereos, because I was talking to you before about when I was buying a mini system when I was a teenager, and you're talking about mega bass, and that was one thing that I really looked for in a stereo, was trying to find a stereo with like mega bass. I really wanted to find one that was the bassiest possible stereo you could possibly get, because up until that point, the technology hadn't been mature enough to give you that sort of rounded sound. You could never get that lower bass. My first couple of stereos were like tape decks, and they were like so tinny, and like they didn't have any bass. You couldn't hear like the bass line being played. Yeah. So like when I got my Iowa stereo, I was extremely like stoked because it had like mega bass in it. And I do remember being very impressed by the way that you could listen to Corn Blind on it, and like the bass at the start, like, that bit.
Yeah, that's like that 5-string do 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 do.
And it's so down tuned. It's like it's rattling. It's like you can hear it slapping against like the body of the guitar. Yeah, so that was where I was going with that. So yeah, I love the old.
Well, what's interesting about that is like, God knows how they do it, but a UE Boom these days, the bass on them is just, I don't know how they get such good bass coming out of such small speakers. And I mean, it's not like hi-fi bass, like audiophile bass, but it's like huge sounding.
I remember being really impressed with those Bose, the little sound, I can't remember what they're called now, but they're tiny. They're probably only about 20 centimeters long. And you get the bass by using like a hollow piece of furniture. So you could put it on top of like a desk or like a sideboard or something. And it uses that as uses that to drive the frequency through it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Like
and
like
something that's only 20 centimeters long and probably 10 centimeters tall is enough to like make massive amount of bass. It was incredible. I remember getting the demo in the store, and I was so sold.
Wow, that's interesting, eh? Yeah, it's I was just thinking of that. That reminded me of something else when you're talking about. I guess you can have the effect of bass, almost like trick the mind into thinking that it's happening as well. When we do feel it. And there's a good example of that. I mean, sorry, this is slightly deviating from what you were talking about
No, please.
with the technology. But you know how before I was talking about the on-stage live sound where you have in-ear monitors, and so those just little molded earplugs that give you your own mix of whatever's going on stage. But often there was this invention about maybe 15 years ago, and a lot of drummers use them. But basically, there's these things called butt kickers. And what it is it's like a contraption that screws onto your drum stool, and it's from what I can gather, it's got the same similar mechanism as a phone vibrating, and it's connected to the audio feed, and it vibrates. It just simply vibrates when you have bass coming through your monitors. So it tricks the ear into what we feel the bass. So you get that good feeling. There's the same thing available in a backpack called I think it's called a sub pack. But essentially it's these vibrating mechanisms that emulate the sound of bass coming through and trick you into feeling like you're actually hearing it.
Nice. I didn't know that. Sounded a bit saucy there, but I like it.
But it's called the butt kicker or ass thumper or something like that. I think it's one of those two things. But it's often used, and the reason that people use that, of course, is because the alternative is to have giant speakers next to you that are blasting the whole way, and then your hearing just gets totally messed up.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's interesting because again with the feeling it. Did you ever watch that movie? It's All Gone, Pete Tong.
No,
Did you watch that? It's about a DJ in Ibiza, I think it was. And he went deaf because of just basically having speakers right next to him. And he made these foot straps that essentially strap his feet to subs.
Oh, right.
So he sits there with it's like the world's most ridiculous pair of novelty jandals. But he basically sits there playing and he can line up his stuff, but he's not really hearing it, he's feeling it through his feet,
Wow,
So
okay.
another one of the beautiful things, I guess, was regards to bass and being able to feel it rather than having to rely on spot on hearing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Did you ever come? Oh no, this is completely off piece. But when you listen to a bit of music, what is the thing that you hear the most of to begin with? Like if someone just like played you something off the cuff, and what's the first thing that you're drawn to in terms of the arrangement?
I think we've talked about it before, how it's not lyrics for me. I think usually it's the chords, it's the harmony.
Yeah.
But yeah, which is I guess a mixture of the bass with the other stuff. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I'm bass. I for some
all the
reason
way?
I draw straight to the bass. I can hum a bass line pretty much straight off the bat. I can't remember what they're singing about, but the bass is right there. Oddly enough, I'm not a bass player, but maybe that's really where my calling actually lies.
But you're pretty amazing with lyrics, though. You can.
I can be
remember
like
them
Sting.
easily.
Like he's a bass player and he's a singer.
He's an interesting one because I had no idea that he played bass for quite some time. They sort of don't make a big thing of it, eh?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I mean it's not like it's like super easy bass lines that they play.
Nah.
So I guess he's pretty decent, right?
And this is the thing as well. I reckon it's almost harder to play the bass than the guitar because it's a lot more mindless guitaring, I think.
Yeah. Who else does it?
Sorry?
Who else does that?
Plays the bass and sings?
Yeah.
There's a few out there, man.
Les Claypool's one for Primus.
Yeah, Les Claypool.
He's a bit of a superhuman though, eh? Like that's ridiculous playing and singing.
How about that guy from Royal Blood? He does it because he plays it
He's
sort of.
awesome.
Yeah, I can't remember what his name is, but
he's got like a modified guitar, with bass strings as well.
I think it's just a bass, but it's a cut down scale, like it's like a 3/4 scale. But he plays it both. He's got like a array of effects pedals, and he plays it both through bass cabinets and guitar cabinets.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he can get because the setup's quite interesting if you've ever seen them live. He's got a couple of big bass cabs and he's got a couple of guitar stacks as well. And the one guitar he plays goes through all of it.
Wow. Yeah. It's a big thing. Like it's tricky to not have that bass in there, isn't it? Because there are famous duos like that, like the White Stripes. And do they have guitar? Did they have a bass player live? Did they use bass live much at all? Or he used an octave pedal, right?
Yeah, the Black Keys did. Like the Black Keys started as a 2-piece as well, didn't they?
Yeah, true. Yeah, they may have.
Because you wouldn't. There's a real disconnect. There'd be, and it's noticeably disconnected if you only had guitar and you only had drums. You're definitely missing like that piece in the middle that sort of gels it all together.
Especially when you are playing at festivals, because you're going right after a band who has, maybe it's a band that is like super bass heavy, and it just has like not as much effect. Because you've got like we were saying, a band that moves stuff around a lot. Like I'd heard about, I haven't seen them live. You might have seen them live. Pendulum. Have you seen those guys before?
Nah. Oh, no, I haven't seen them live.
I've heard things about their live show, which is just like the ridiculous, the level of bass and just the volume and the energy. That it's a really, really amazing live show apparently. But they're one of those groups who mix specifically for, like a lot of producers of bass music do. They EQ and mix and treat their bass specifically for these huge festival subs. I guess they've got a separate mix for their normal listeners listening through iPhones and stuff, and then do another different one for playing at these things where you've got subs that are just huge speakers because they move a little bit differently, and so.
Have you ever got into the dance culture yourself, Tom?
No, I haven't really. I do
never want
like
to go to
the
Ibiza?
bass. Those tempos are not really my tempos. That sounds real wanky, eh? Yeah. No,
Just
no.
to elaborate
tempo.
on that one. Those tempos are not my tempos.
Well, there's a fine line between quite a dated house music tempo, that kind of thing, and something that's infinitely cooler that's just ever so slightly slower. I kind of like slower, but that kind of tempo that I guess is synonymous with a lot of that, 90s, early 2000s dance culture, I never really thought was that cool. I don't know why, eh? It's kind of...
So you never got into like Deep Forest Enigma? You never...
Well, we've discussed that.
Yeah.
We've discussed that. But I mean, that's a little bit different again. I guess this 4 on the floor thing, and by that I mean, just the kick drum, boom, 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 boom. I'm just, I guess, like a lot of people, sort of picky about tempos, about speeds with it. And so never really massively got into dance culture, I guess.
No.
But that's a whole interesting other sort of kettle of fish. Somehow I missed out on it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think you kind of were in one camp or the other, it seems. It fascinated me, but it was never something that really interested me. No.
When I was, when you were a teenager, when I was a teenager at the same time, I think it was a little bit synonymous with devil sticks, kind of neon stuff, just that kind of vibe. But I was a bit more dark and gloomy. I was kind of more into heavy stuff. And you're a bit more grungy, weren't you? You were into...
Yeah, I was definitely more into... not into metal in the same way as you were. You are. I'm sorry, but more of a lighter touch, shall we say. Dirtier touch.
Yeah, it's good, man. So who are some of your favourite bass players? You talked about Justin Chancellor. Anyone else sort of...
There's obviously Flea.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, Flea. John McVie from... is it John McVie? From Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah. There's a few goodies out there, eh?
Yeah, definitely. Who was the guy from Pearl Jam again?
I can't remember that guy's name.
He real popularised a fretless bass sound in a lot of his music, and a lot of Pearl Jam's music.
Oh, they did use that fretless bass sound. That's right.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah. There are
you
lots
can hear it in that Jeremy song, it's like there's completely fretless.
Yeah. Have a search of it because I guess we'll need
Chris, G Fament.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. I always thought the guy from Muse is a real good bass player, eh?
Yeah, Chris Wolfton.
Apparently he's got like 9 kids, eh?
Yeah, does he?
Yeah, he's got a real big family, and they go everywhere on tour with
Oh
him.
my god! I'm always thought that he must have the sorest neck because his his stage.
He goes hard, eh?
Yeah, man, he really, and his neck just takes a beating, eh?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, he's a great player. There are so many good players. I always like to see a bass player kind of featured and stuff. Like, have we talked about Wolfpack on here before?
No, but you should.
He's a great one to check out. You know, Joe Dart is his name. Yeah, he plays with a lot of groups. The Fearless Flyers, Wolfpack,
Deanstown.
Deantown. Yeah, Deantown's a great one. So he's definitely one to check out, Joe Dart. Another one would be Thundercat.
Oh, yes.
He's another great bass player too. So there are lots of people that I guess revolutionize it. I mean, you can think of bass and music you can almost separate it in terms of melodic bass, so bass that plays notes rather than bass that's like the brown note or the kick drum. There's two main things. There's like electronic bass and then and then played bass, I guess, right?
Yep.
Yeah, upright New electric bass. And Joe Dart and Thundercat, I guess those guys, that guy Thaddeus Tribbett that I talked about that Rick Ross video last time as well.
That's right. How about Lemmy?
Oh yeah, Lemmy's the classic, eh?
Yep.
He would have had a mean live rig. Jeez, that would have
He
been
played.
loud.
He unusually played because you'd call Lemmy played like as metal, really.
Yeah.
And he unusually played that Rickenbacker bass,
Rickenbacker,
which is quite an unusual selection, I would have thought. It certainly did, it's not something that you'd normally see people play, the Rickenbacker. It's more normally associated with sort of 50s, 60s type pop music.
Beatles, eh? Yeah.
Yep.
And indie bands.
Yeah, not in Motorhead. So it's like a little bit interesting.
He was his own thing, eh?
Totally, man. Totally.
Yeah, he was great. So lots of pretty legendary bass players around, and I guess it's still a pretty strong feature of any band, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
These days.
As a drummer, do you feel like it's super important when you play, that you have someone that sort of you gel with as a bass player?
Yeah, it's pretty important, hey. It's really important. If you can, quite often you'll see bass players on stage looking at a drummer's right foot because the drummer's playing the kick drum, and that's kind of one thing the bass player can lock into. Mm-hmm. So it's quite rare. It can be quite rare for the bass player to actually be in front of the drummer because it sort of messes with the line of sight to their right foot.
Interesting.
Yeah, if it's like a big show and they're kind of used to it, then I guess it'd be fine. But usually, often, a bass player will be trying to see what the drummer's foot's doing.
Okay.
As well. It's a pretty special thing. It's always kind of annoying playing with a bass player sometimes who, you struggle. You I guess have difficulty establishing a gel with the time, if that kind of makes sense. A real good band to check out for a really good example of that would be AC/DC, man. Because those guys have been playing together for ages. Boom, gun, boom, ding, gun, ding, ding, gun, boom, gun, boom. And just like a really, really solid groove between that bass player and that drummer. Phil Rudd, right? All I know is a couple of them. I don't know the bass player's name. Malcolm Young, Angus Young, Brian Johnson. Phil Rudd's the drummer, but I can never remember the bass player's name.
No one can ever remember the bass player from the bands. I think that's probably the most maligned member of most bands, unless you're the front person like Lemmy or Sting or something like that,
Yeah.
They sort of always,
yeah,
totally. I wouldn't say a bad rap, they're the most forgotten. The drummer's got the charisma,
in the background.
The lead singer's got the charisma. There's usually like a guitarist that's like really like, memorable. Bass player, no idea.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they often get sort of left at the... John Paul Jones is another one from Led Zepp. He sort of was like the least, I guess, obvious person in the band. You'd be like, oh, I think it's a 3-piece.
Yeah. Isn't
You
the
don't really
same
notice him back then.
like John Deacon from Queen?
John, I'm not sure. Yeah, definitely.
He's also quite like understated as well, isn't he? Like kind of in the same similar sort of idea as John Paul Jones.
I think it's kind of like a bass player in general. I think more often than not, they're kind of like a chill person at the back who kind of is cool playing for the music without necessarily being at the front of the group doing, big solos and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In general, that's probably the guitarist's job.
Mm.
I mean, they call them rhythm players. That's why they call it a rhythm section, because you're sort of creating a rhythmic foundation rather than floating over the top like a guitarist might.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess often they could be understated kind of characters, and then you get your fleas.
Yeah.
As in the bass player for Chili Peppers, not
He's probably the most well-known bass player. Would you say Flea?
Definitely I'd say definitely one of them. He's a pretty outgoing character, eh?
Mm.
Yeah, he goes hard live too, eh?
Yeah, he fully does. Yeah.
He's a great player. They're a great group to see, eh? Chili Peppers, if you get the chance. Have you seen them?
No, I've never. Oh, actually, no, I lie. I have seen them. I saw the Big Day Out in 2000, I think it was, which is sadly 21 years ago, Tom.
No, yeah, true. Hey, so when you're buying headphones, you know how you were saying that when you bought stereos, you'd look for the ones with the stickers, the fluorescent stickers. Is that still a priority for you with your headphones as well?
No, not so much now. And to be honest, I haven't really bought a set of headphones. The headphones I'm wearing this evening, they're a cheap pair that I bought from the warehouse. But I have considered getting a nice pair of headphones. I think a balanced sound is more important now than far too much low end.
Yeah. Well, I think that some brands take advantage of the fact that it's safe to say that because of how we feel about bass and because people generally love it, if people perceive bass to be quite loud in a mix, in general, they'll think it sounds better.
Yeah.
I think that's just the way that it is. And so some headphone brands have capitalized that, none the least of which is Beats by Dre. So I think in general, Beats by Dre are a little bit more coloured towards having a heavier bass than most headphones. So kind of frowned on by audiophiles, I guess, because they're given, you might call it not a true representation of the mix, but certainly loved by people who are just like casual listeners who just love bass heavy music. Yeah. So if you want to sell a lot of units, you just pump that bass in there.
Well, see, I've got, to go to bed, I wear ear plugs, like this sort of like ear, the wireless Bluetooth ones. And they are skull candy ones. Mainly, I didn't buy them for sound. I bought them because they were cheap, and one of the cheapest ones you can get. But the name implies skull candy. You kind of think, well, that's kind of bassy, isn't it? Like reverberating through your skull, My skull loves it.
Are they bass heavy? Are they
pretty bass heavy? Yeah, they are actually. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say I'd listen to things that you'd really want to articulate on them, but in terms of just a straightforward, pleasurable mix, that's fine, and they're quite nice. I'm not an audiophile myself, but I do know that I quite like a nice balanced kind of sound.
Yeah.
I like to hear the whole spread, and generally with headphones like that, it's definitely weighted towards the lower end as opposed to the top end.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, let's talk about some tasting notes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, what are you rocking this evening there, Tom?
Alrighty, I'll go first. Well, I'm drinking the lockdown calls for desperate measures, and things are in short supply at my house, and I was looking for something, because we like to support local if we can. Certainly New Zealand microbreweries if we can, or just craft beer breweries. So the thing that I managed to get my hands on was long white vodka premixes.
Wow, are you getting some notes of kiwi fruit through that one?
Yeah, well, I guess I've got the orange one, and I'm not a big RTD person, Pete. Like, it's like back in the day when I was a teenager, you had these Pipagoinas and these tattoos and the Stolies and
KGBs.
Oh man, all of those. They always made me feel pretty yuck because they're so sweet. But these are a bit better. I would say as far as RTDs go, if that's what they're still even called, this is like a vodka, soda, orange mix. It's pretty good. It's not too sweet, and that's what does it for me. That's why I can't really drink cocktails. Too sweet, man.
Yeah, too sweet. Your palate's like really, can't deal with it anymore.
Can't deal. So I think I haven't had an experience where I've had more than a couple of these long whites, but certainly for a casual afternoon sun thing like we had today, beautiful day today, they fit the bill. So not too sweet is the main point for me there.
You're not much of a Miami wine cooler man.
Nah, not at all. Yeah. How about you? What are you drinking?
So this evening, I'm going for a wine, and I'm by no means a sommelier. It's a Stables. It was Natarawa Stables Merlot.
What year? What year?
It's a 2020. Good year. 2020.
That was a good year. No, actually, it was.
It's a terrible year, but the wine's lovely.
A good vine year, good vintage. Yeah.
Exquisite.
What are you getting? What are you getting from the?
Well, I am getting. I'm getting a lot of ripe plum and spice flavors. It's very soft and delicious. I'm not reading off the back, by the way.
Oh, no.
No, definitely not. I'm definitely getting that.
That's good. In case anyone can't tell, we're actually still in lockdown, doing this on Zoom, of course. Yeah, being locked down. So trying to do what we can, but it's the second session.
So do apologise for some relatively stunted moments where Tom's frozen on the screen, with pink lipstick on or something. Like, what the hell's going on there? Oh, that's what's happened. It's the internet connection.
Yeah, we struggle with filters, us oldies.
What's this? What does this button do?
Yeah, I always get fooled by that one. So maybe we should wrap it up. But I was just going to leave with a bit of a tidbit of information.
Oh, please.
You know how we have this thing in movies with bass? There's like, you'll be able to do it better than me because you got a big deep voice. But this whole sub, they call it like a downlifter, and you have it when an explosion happens underwater or a spaceship, whatever. It only started happening in the last sort of 20 years. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Basically, fully taking advantage of the subs in a 5.1 surround sound theatre. Well, apparently, the first time that was used was in The Lord of the Rings by our very own Park Road Post.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Mr. Dave Whitehead. So, it might not have been the very first one, but a few people have said that that's like one of the first occasions that particular effect is being used. When Sauron walks out and just like twacks like 30 dudes with his mace there in the first movie, and it's like yeah. Oh, hang on, might be when the ring gets chopped off at some point in there with regards to Sauron. Yeah, it's not quite the brown note, but it's certainly it's a gut rumbler. That's for sure. Yeah.
Do you ever get into going to the movies? It's quite a visceral experience, eh?
I love it.
Even if you're watching,
I never get to do it.
Like Lego, the Lego movies or something, or Teen Titans go to the movies or something. It's still quite a visceral experience.
Yeah, I love it, but I never get to do it. I'm looking forward to doing that once the lockdown finishes.
Yeah, man, it's something that I'd love to do more of.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Just in general. Yeah, totally. For sure. Cool, man. Well, let's wrap it up there, Pete. Yeah, man. Well, lovely talking with you again, Tom, and seeing your lovely face.
You too kind, sir. But you too, man. You take care. I'll see you next time.
See you later, man.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
See ya.
See ya.